Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you here. Again, I ask you if you will like, share, comment, something with the post, and that will be appreciated very much. And then we will dig into another verse here in Acts chapter 6, dealing with the institution of the office of deacons. Verse 4, after telling the church you need to appoint some men to tend to these duties, to these responsibilities of ministering to the widows, the shut-ins, those kinds of things. And again, I want to point out, he doesn't say it. It's very important to notice that it doesn't say it should go undone. He just says here who is supposed to be taking care of those things. And he says we will devote ourselves to prayer and to the ministry of the word. Well, this is why. Not so that they could sit around and play checkers, but so they could devote themselves to the two main purposes of the church. And I think sometimes we have lost that this emphasis in our churches today, that our main function is prayer and the ministry or the preaching of the word. That is the two main functions that the church is assigned. Everything else, not that it is not important. All the other things we do, now some of them may not be important, but all the other things we do fall under the ministry of the word and prayer. If it's not worth praying over, it's not worth doing. If it doesn't involve the ministry of the word, it shouldn't be done. And so these are the two great functions. Everything else is secondary or tertiary. Everything else comes down the line underneath this idea of prayer and ministry. And it is the responsibility of the pastor to give himself to that ministry, to be devoted to that ministry, not to allow himself to be distracted or diverted. And again, it's not saying a pastor should never do any shut-in visitation or visit the widows or whatever you call it in your church. It's not what I'm saying at all, but I'm saying their primary function is to pray and preach the word, to minister the word, and that is again the purpose of the whole church. That is what our function is to be. Difficult to imagine the difference in our churches, the difference in our society, if ministers, deacons, church people, all those who claim to be followers of Christ would devote themselves and make these two things the priority in their life and in their church. Again, the leaders of the church, the ministers, it is to be their primary duty, but it is all of our responsibility. It is the responsibility of the church people to make sure it's that the minister is doing it and to hold him accountable for that. That we are steadfast is the biblical word in proclaiming the good news of spending time in prayer, that we devote ourselves to that. And I've used this illustration a number of times, and I think it really kind of again proves the point of what is emphasized in our churches today. Announce that you're going to have an all-day, not even an all-day. Announce you're going to have an hour of prayer and count your crowd. Announce that you're going to have a preaching session and count your crowd. Announce you're going to have a covered dish lunch and count your crowd. I think most of us know how that turns out. And so the question that we need to be asking ourselves as ministers and as Christians and as churches is prayer and ministry of the word our priority? And is there evidence to prove it? What does the evidence say is the priority in our church. Look at our church bulletins. Look at our announcements. Look at our programs. Look at what we have scheduled. What's our priorities? Is it prayer and the ministry of the Word, or is it something else? Have a great day.